Hey, so the timing on this one is a little long because it has an explainer at the end as to what happened before, why this took so long, and what's coming next. There will be a version without that uploaded at a later date. I'm not going to say any more right now at the beginning because I want to just jump right into it, but now we're going to jump right on into it, and stay tuned. For now, I'll just say thank you for being patient, thank you very much for always supporting the show if you're a fan, and if you're not a fan or a patron or whatnot, there is a Patreon for this stuff, and for everything we do here. If you like any of it at all, please hop on and maybe help us out so we can do more. It is the holidays after all. Thank you so much, and enjoy the show.
So, let's just jump right into this. Being primarily an online film critic, commentator, guy who makes the word sounds into the talk box with the pictures over it on the internet machine, whatever you want to call this, kind of means you move from platform to platform over years, and unless you're talented enough, lucky enough, already rich and or well-connected enough starting out to move up into the higher ranks of it, and I am none of those things, never have been, maybe never will be, right away, you pretty much look at audience turnover once every few years as a new crop of people file in and out of workspaces that need audiovisual distraction, and that's your job to provide. Basically,
I get older, they stay the same age.
Yes, they do.
Yes, they do.
I should probably find a less sleazy clip for that, right? Anyway, a side effect is that you start to see the same film and pop culture discourses pop up again and again, as the internet has at this point decisively proven that instead of fixing our inability to learn from things and repeat our past mistakes, it is instead a machine that makes them much worse. Case in relevant point, now that we're making King Kong movies pretty regularly again, I think we just got a new trailer for the next versus Godzilla one. Hey, yeah, that looks pretty good. Every year or two we get a fresh round of people on the internet realizing with shock and horror that it's possible to read King Kong as a metaphor for stuff. And also that not every Quentin Tarantino movie is as well memorized as people think it is, because otherwise you'd think this was settled up for at least all the self-styled film buffs out there.
Fuhr ich da mit dem Schiff?
Ja.
Geschah die Reise gegen meinen Willen?
Ja.
Auf der Schiffsreise lag ich deinen Ketten.
Ja.
Als ich in Amerika ankam, wurde ich deinen Ketten zur Schau gestellt.
Ja.
Bin ich die Geschichte des Negers in Amerika?
Nein.
Also dann muss ich King Kong sein.
Ah.
But alright, cards on the table, I don't actually know that it's 100% clear that Marion C. Cooper and the other makers of King Kong saw their movie as any kind of one-to-one miscegenation parable. I mean, is it plausible? Yeah, absolutely, sure. What we would now call absurdly racist general assumptions underpinning basic elements of story structure and imagination were then just called how people were. Things changed. The past was generally a bad place. Everybody smelled terrible, smoked too much, spit tobacco everywhere. They got terrible diseases, believed in stupid shit, food was terrible, largely you died young for dumb reasons, and you generally better off now. The past sucked, fuck the Roman Empire, and its general alternatives. Things are better now. Now, in all seriousness, the reason I think these kind of readings jump out at people is that King Kong, the original, not some super racist surface-level movie like a lot of stuff from the fucking 30s and even much later is. I mean, like, you can see Mickey Rooney play a Japanese guy in Breakfast at Tiffany's from 1961.
I protest!
Oh, darling, I am sorry, but I lost my key.
But that was 2 weeks ago! You cannot go on or keep ringing my bell! Michigo Rightry! This time I'm warning you! I am definitely this time going to call in the police!
That's racist, man.
Yeah, that's just straight ignorant, dog.
Yeah, and I think most people get why that was a problem. Even if you think it's not a big deal, you get why it's not okay. Whereas King Kong obviously has a lot of exoticism, not great representation and caricature happening when it comes to this made-up tribe of black natives sacrificing people to their gorilla god. It's mostly guilty of them being dehumanized fantasy props and cannon fodder that the film at worst vilifies and at best doesn't really care about than anything else in terms of on-screen narrative. So is that a racist movie is a question that comes down to how widely you want to apply that designation. You know, and the context is, it's a movie made in the defaults of a racist society, which also applies to movies like now. It doesn't go out of its way to be so, like a lot of other things in that era did, but I also wouldn't feel compelled to run out and give it an NAACP award just because nobody throws a watermelon or uses the N-word with a hard R.
It's hard to explain this to a young person, but people of my generation are,
racist.
That's it.
Back to the metaphor, I think it hits a nerve for people that other readings of things don't, because you kind of get it right away, but also you don't because it's weird. It doesn't feel one-to-one when you think about it, and then
he is an articulate spokesman for those far-left views. The last thing we need to do is to monkey this up by trying to embrace a socialist agenda.
Oh, yeah, right, okay, there it is.
You're nothing but an overgrown monkey!
Those monkeys from those African countries. Damn them, they're still uncomfortable wearing shoes.
You monkey!
Wait, but monkeys aren't only from one part of the world, and did people really understand that back then? And, it's not like your average American racist from between the beginning of the country up through the Civil War and into even the 30s had like some deep knowledge of indigenous African wildlife, so Cletus the Grand Wizard of the Clan wasn't going, oh yeah, gorillas, that's a perfect anthropomorphic caricature animal to compare the black man to, certainly. Was that happening? Who knows? And then the whole apes crawling up and pawing at helpless women and carrying them off, that's a thing in movies, specifically way before, during, and after Kong did it with a giant ape, but it's not really a gorilla thing in reality. Chimpanzees are really more documented to be the animal that messes with humans, wounded humans, young humans, etc. Gorillas are really more of a don't start anything, won't be anything animal in reality. So where does this come from? Did it come from anywhere? Or did people just start pulling this out of their ass as a thing to say about King Kong movies for attention? Like, we ran out of good movies to have discourse about, so find a hot take on King Kong. Turns out, kind of the other way around, believe it or not. Yeah, see, King Kong, probably not totally verifiably, but very likely got at least the idea for Save Girl from Ape Sacrifice, or picked it up in the zeitgeist, from a very different previous hit movie that was definitely, no argument at all, super racist about the whole thing, and that movie was called Ingagi.
I didn't sneeze.
Yeah, so now that we've successfully unburied the very buried lead here, Ingagi is a film from Congo Pictures, released in 1930, purporting to be an ethnographic documentary, comprised of footage shot by the exploration crew of London explorer Sir Hubert Winstead, in a previously unexplored region of the Belgian Congo, wherein he documented the discovery of numerous fascinating new species of animal and a tribe of natives who worship local gorillas as protector gods and placate them by gifting young women as sex slaves to the gorillas. Winstead claims to present evidence of these lascivious details and more, and most of it plays out like, look, just here's some of the movie. Take a look.
We strolled through the streets of the town, noting the primitive methods, the mode of transportation, the quaint mixture of natives and aliens. The natives attempted to show us up with their primitive weapons. The cry of a full-grown leopard is about as unpleasant a sound as one cares to hear. It sent a chill down my spine when I heard it for the first time. Out it came like a flash of tawny light, and I pulled the trigger. At last we had penetrated into the heart of the Ingagi country, where no white man had ever been before. We were ready to believe almost anything now. The African husband, not unlike some others, believes in letting the better half do the work. A company of women, unclothed, apparently living like animals. Could these tales be true? Tales we had regarded as mere legends of a native tribe, lowest of all in the scale of humanity. May I suggest, ladies, that this is a wonderful and efficient way of reducing you may observe that many of the native women are quite shapely. These simple native hearts seem to hold a dark knowledge of hidden things and strange mysteries, beating like the tom-tom, an unending rhythm in the soul of the black. Strange traffic with the great apes, creatures scarcely less intelligent than themselves. One had a child hugged to her breast, a strange-looking child, seemingly more ape than human. Our headman made inquiries and reported. To our amazement, he told us that this was the night the tribe sacrificed a woman to the Ingagi, but little suspecting what was in store for us. The brute pounced upon her, and she screamed like one possessed. But the limit had been reached, and at last he fired. While the gorilla is seldom the aggressor, he was now being robbed of his legitimate prey and was prepared to fight to the last ditch. Dropping the woman, he came on with roars that seemed to shake the very earth. His struggle with death was awesome, with almost human screams of agony. He twisted and turned, and at last lay still.
So, yeah, that's complete bullshit.
Fake.
Sir Hubert Winstead was not a real person. Most of that footage was either shot at Griffith Park Zoo or borrowed from other actual or slightly less fake documentaries. The new animal species, like the tortadillo there.
Captain Swain came across an animal of such queer character that no one could give a name to it. It seemed like a cross between an armadillo and a tortoise, so Swain called it a tortadillo. So far as we have been able to learn, it is a species hitherto unknown to science.
Yeah, that's just a regular-ass turtle with other makeup appliances glued to its shell. The African tribe are actors for the most part. The gorillas were just guys in costumes. Most of this was shot around Los Angeles. Nobody got sacrificed or gorilla sexed, thankfully. It's a total hoax. They faked all of this. This is all fake. They made it up.
He's lying. Shut up, I'm a liar too. No, you're not as good a liar as this guy.
They just completely made this shit up and put it out as a documentary, and they made a lot of money in 1930 dollars off the prospect of, yeah, we got footage of a tribe in Africa where they give girls to monkeys and they do fucked up shit with them. You want to see? And of course, people wanted to see that. I mean, do you know how much money freak shows still made back then? A lot. Probably the same kind of money this did. Like, of course that worked. Don't pretend we're any better now. Don't pretend David Zaslav wouldn't schedule a block of that shit right between Growing Belushi and 90 Day Fiancé love games if he could. But, you know, even in the 30s, you actually could fuck around with stuff like that too much. I mean, not about the horrifically racist and misogynist content, obviously, but, you know, this was still the two different bathrooms era, but you could fuck around being reckless with people's money, and Ingagi actually did too well at the box office for people to, like, not pay attention. You know, like film critics, newspapers, journalists, just reporters in general started to get skeptical and write articles about how it looked kind of fishy. I mean, look, we're between two world wars, TV isn't a thing yet, something isn't good on the radio all the time, there's not always a boxing match or a baseball game people are interested in. You gotta talk to people about something, so hey, did you see that crazy gorilla movie Ingagi? Eventually turns into, yeah, I did, but I also heard they maybe faked it? What? And then the Motion Picture Producers and Distributors of America put out some paperwork and feelers asking around about this since, hey, people are talking. Now think about that for a minute. If you're the guys who did this, you made a fake gorilla documentary, you made a shitload of money off it, you basically got away with it up to this point. It's 1930, so to keep getting away with it, all you really got to do is put all the money in like just a bag, start wearing a different hat, change your name on one or two documents, get on a train, go to a different town, and you're basically in the clear. Paper trail broken, you vapor, there's no internet, no Google Maps, they can't track you. Like, you're gonna get away with this. So what's the stupidest possible thing you could do instead? Yeah, so they did that. The guys who made Ingagi sued the MPPDA for defamation, claiming damages because they'd raised questions as to whether or not their fake movie was fake.
You wish you were a millionaire. You want more money. Guess what? You blow it.
So when you sue for something like that, the claim has to be investigated by the Federal Trade Commission, and the guys you sued have to look at your records. That's called discovery, which of course is what happened. And the FTC concluded that the movie was fake. Because the movie was fake.
Knock, knock. Who's there? You blew it.
You blew it who?
You blew it bad.
So not only did Congo Pictures not get their defamation money, they had to take anything that suggested their fake movie was real out of circulation as misleading marketing, which included the entire movie itself.
You know what the last page in the book is? A mirror, so you can see exactly who blew it, being you.
So for a long time, you just couldn't see Ingagi. You couldn't watch it. It couldn't be screened legally, which didn't stop that many places from showing it around, but they weren't supposed to. Not that you'd want to see it. It's terrible. It's very boring, even apart from all the gross bullshit, but for a while, people treated this as lost media. You can watch it on YouTube now, of course. There's a couple Blu-rays out. I think Something Weird still has a copy around. The legacy of the entire thing in terms of mainstream popular culture is that it supposedly played very, very well, especially in theaters that were owned by RKO, and that's the company who later put up the money for King Kong.
You know, monkey see, monkey do.
So it's not at all unlikely that someone looked at this piece of shit raking in all that money and said, okay, so what if we made a good version of this? And I don't know, maybe if the gorilla is like really big. And also, because its subject was so infamous, the title was borrowed as a sarcastic reference about a decade later for an otherwise unrelated mad scientist missing link horror movie made by black filmmakers called Son of Ingagi, which has the distinction of being, as near as anyone can attest, the first horror movie with an all African-American cast. So that's certainly something. I mean, it's certainly a better movie than Ingagi itself, which is really only memorable because of how absurd the existence of it is and maybe possibly inspired someone to make a better movie a few years after. So roundabout, that's how that connects to King Kong and what happened there, yeah.
Perhaps there is no moral to this story.
Exactly. It's just a bunch of stuff that happened.
But you know, it is easy to laugh at how obviously fake this is, given that 1930 wasn't really that long ago when you think about it, and people should have known better or caught on quicker. I mean, they did catch on. The whole thing got exposed and shut down pretty quick by back then standards of fraud, but it's not like the whole obviously fake movie causes trouble things stopped happening. People really did think the Blair Witch Project was real. That did happen, guys. Animal Planet got probably its harshest criticism ever for airing 2 docufiction specials about proof of mermaid discovery with only minimal disclaimers that they weren't meant to be taken seriously. The world remains profoundly filled with stupid people. More infamously, Cannibal Holocaust, an Italian found footage movie that includes real scenes of animal violence alongside realistic gore effects, saw its director put on trial in actual court and made to prove that all his actors were still alive and that he hadn't simply straight up murdered people to make that movie. And of course, there was also that time that has-been movie critic Chris Gore supposedly passed a videotape of a Japanese horror movie to has-been actor Charlie Sheen, which Sheen became convinced was an actual snuff film depicting real murder and reported it to the FBI, triggering an investigation. These days, the most interesting part of that story is that the least likable person involved is not Charlie Sheen. But Ingagi, you know, it happened. It may have inspired King Kong. It was regarded for years as somewhat lost media. It is absurdly racist, and in that way and other ways, a strange document of a time lost but not that far lost in American film. And it is certainly a movie that exists.
Okay, so this is a SCHLOCKCEMBER. Wow. Yeah, okay, so here's what happened here. You can see my notes reflecting in my glasses. It's because there's some notes to cover. What happened here? How many what happened episodes have we had this year? So basically, my PC broke at right at the end of Schlocktober this year, which is why there were 3 long episodes instead of 5 still long episodes. Right at the beginning of this year, the plan was for this to be a big Schlocktober year because I had a big plan happening. And what that plan entailed was that we were going to get to the end of 5 episodes, and then at the end there would be a big announcement. And then the PC broke right in the middle of a bunch of other work and family matters, needing to get completely repaired, get a new hard drive put in, but story for another time. Here's what went down with Schlocktober and why this is late. So by the time I got the actual repaired computer back, got everything put back together, October, long gone, well into Thanksgiving, lots of work stuff, lots of money stuff, here we are. This was the original plan for how this was supposed to go. The plan was that the episode would have been a different movie than Ingagi. Topicality came into play. Would have been with that same sort of riff at the end about how this is a movie that exists. And it would have trailed off into the pitch for a whole new thing. There's a lot of reasons why the Big Picture has not had as many episodes over the last couple months as it did before. And some of it, yes, is because they're longer, because I can take my time. Some of it is feeling down, self-care. Some of it's money. A lot of it is, to put it bluntly, the economics are different now. When the Big Picture started out over a decade ago, the point of that show was basically I had a very popular movie review show and was doing well enough. The movie review show was, ratings-wise. Whether or not I was doing well, you tell me. That they gave me a second show. So the premise of that show, which for a while was not even on YouTube, was on just that site, was every week that show would be on, and it could be whatever the hell you wanted to say. Just an editorial column in video form, basically. What YouTube is now, not just for my show, but for everything else that's out there, is now very much antithetical to that. If you are not, as a creator, making only one kind of video for your channel all of the time, you're going to lose money, lose subscribers, people get mad, you stop getting recommended, you are going to lose in the long run. You see, I've already gone off on 7 or 8 different tangents here. This was supposed to be about what was up with the Big Picture and what is coming next and what was up with this whole episode and what am I teasing. But what it comes down to is there aren't as many Big Picture uploads, not because I've run out of things to say, but because it's difficult to sort them out into what's worth saying. I find myself asking, should I talk about politics this week? Should I talk about a movie this week? Is this more of a movie review? Is this a reaction? Am I more interested in talking about a trailer this week? Will I bore people to death if I'm talking about some esoteric policy thing, or an old book, or an old game, or some such? Should that be a revival of Game Over Thinker? Oh, I don't know. And before you know it, a week has gone by, and all I have are half-written notes, and it makes more sense to review a new movie. Now, what you're supposed to do on YouTube as a modern creator is you're supposed to make an entire separate channel, multiple separate channels, and put each of your different veins of content on each one. This is where my movie stuff goes, this is where my politics stuff goes, this is where game stuff goes, and you perform a little differently on each one, and then theoretically you get 3 times the traffic if everyone follows you to each one. If. And maybe that's something that can happen at some point. That's worth exploring. I would certainly like 3 times the money. Will all of you follow 3 different Movie Bob channels where we sort things out on the 3 different channels? Let me know in the comments. This is why I'm a little too old for this kind of platform, is it feels fake if I say that, but I mean it. Let me know in the comments. Smash that subscribe button. Like and subscribe. What was going to happen with Schlocktober? Well, the plan was to end off whatever the last Schlocktober would have been for this year, which is now Ingagi, with a goofy line about how that is a movie that exists. And then lead into a bit of a monologue like this, spoken word, but not quite in the same setup, about how really a lot of content on YouTube is, when it comes to old movies, you can frame it in saying something bigger about culture, society, film history, whatever, but what you're really getting to is, hey, here's a thing that exists. This movie exists. You're not so much reviewing it, you're not so much saying whether it's bad or good, you're offering an opinion, but usually the fact that you're saying is, this was a movie. It's here. You're affirming the existence of a film. And it's a simple idea, but in this age where physical media is precarious, streaming is both omnipresent and liquid. It comes and it goes. This Is a Movie That Exists is, in its own way, a statement. This will sound corny, but as much as I, in the past, have enjoyed both really, really shitting on bad films, bad filmmakers, and when, talking about politics and history and dealing with bad people, bad events, bad parts of the culture, getting to say, this movie sucks, this person was an asshole, fuck this movie, fuck this guy, fuck this person. And as much as, conversely, it is often nice to say, you know what, this is great. Like, it legitimately feels great to right now be able to say Godzilla -1 is a great fucking movie, go see it. It also feels good. Almost nothing in my little niche of work here feels as good as being able to, in like a modern version of, the video store clerk, which is something that I did several times for a career in my life when that was a job that existed, speaking of, being able to hear someone talk about something that interests them or mention another thing that they like, or just, recognizing someone and saying, hey, what's a good movie that you should watch, or what's a movie that exists that you might not have seen, that you might not, this thing, this exists, and you should watch it sometime. Whether or not they enjoy it, just sharing that feels good. That pretty much would have been the monologue. And this is why it pisses me off that the computer had to break down this year of all years, because this was going to be the big payoff. This was the finale, was I'm just not going to stop doing Schlocktober this year. I'm just going to keep going and not so much stop the big picture, but since the big picture is not on a regular schedule, I'm going to start doing Schlocktober more regularly. Basically, movies that are not necessarily horror movies, not necessarily even genre movies. I'm just going to do this type of format where here's a movie, I'm going to tell you what it's about, maybe tell you most of the plot, maybe not, just here's a movie that exists. It's not necessarily a review, just, hey, yeah, I'm going to describe a movie, throw it out there, check it out. Here you go. A show like of that format. The Schlocktober style format, but for things that aren't necessarily horror, all year round. Just not going to stop. Just going to keep on going it. And, we'll see if people enjoy that. Maybe that is a show that can catch on and be more of a regular upload, fun thing like The Big Picture. And if that translates into more regular uploads and more ad revenue for me, more's the better. But really, it just feels like something that's more fun to do. And that's something people would enjoy. That I would enjoy. What a concept. And where that goes back to this is a movie that exists is I can't think of anything else to call this other than this movie exists. So that's what we're calling this for now, until I either think of a better title or someone tells me for some reason that I'm not allowed to call it that. For now, we are calling the new show This Movie Exists. So look forward to that. Look forward to more Big Picture. In answer to your inevitable question, what does this mean for Schlocktober in the future? I have no idea, because I only planned this far and it blew up in my face, so I'm not planning beyond this. Look forward for more reviews, look forward for more Big Picture, and yeah, This Movie Exists, coming soon. What will be the first movie covered? I don't know. But the show will exist, and yeah, that's what we're doing. Stay tuned. What am I doing with my hands?